Hi everyone, Dex here from EdStack. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar, BIM 360 Design Advanced User. We'll have technical consultant Tomislav presenting for us. So just a quick introduction about EdStack. So we're a leading provider of design technology and services to engineering and architecture professionals. With over 20 years of local experience, we provide the expertise, training and support to help companies realize the full potential of the design technology. The EdStack mission is to deliver industry-leading services to the engineering, construction and architecture communities. We work with clients and companies that energize nationally and abroad. Let's get started, Tom.
Thank you very much. And I guess before I kick off, I'll just put up a slide there just about myself. My name is Tomislav Golubovic. I also have over 20 years experience, now into 24, 25 years of being in the CAD or engineering industry. Basically started when I left school into QUT up in Brisbane and started a civil engineering course, which sort of led me into the industry, and I subsequently moved around between civil, structural, electrical, telco, a little bit of medical as well, and some notable companies there like Worley Parsons, GHD, Oricon and Boeing. I've worked with Boeing on the RAF and some submarine projects that they did back in the day. Oricon, I think, was telco, and GHD was sort of onshore and offshore work. But I ended up at Worley Parsons as a piper here in Melbourne, working out at Spotswood. And then I ended up being a CAD administrator there at Worley Parsons. And then from that, I ended up at Autodesk as a pre-sales tech specialist. So for anyone on the call, you might have come across some of my demos or some meetings I might have had with you. So my role was there as a pre-sales tech specialist was to talk to customers about the products and sort of come up with solutions. And I'd work in conjunction with the resellers and or Autodesk as well as part of that. I ended up leaving Autodesk late last year and now contracting with RedStack. So that's why you'll see my name pop up on some of their webinars and whatnot. Now, the agenda for today, it looks short, but it is quite lengthy. And because we're taking a sort of a bit of a deeper dive into BIM 360 with docs and design, so I'm going to go through a little bit on the project setup. Some of this might be a bit of a repeat for some people if you watched my last webinar about the basics and the overview of docs, but I will go through it again for people that didn't manage to join me on that call there. And we're going to go through docs and again, just talking about permissions and adding users, removing users, and sort of a bit of a setup on there, and also design collaboration, which is sort of where we take this bit of a deeper dive. Now, I am going to jump in and out of Revit with this as well. So again, feel free to take note of any questions. We are going to have a Q&A at the end of this session. But again, I guess if you need to, just write down the questions or post the questions and we can cover them towards the end as well. So what we're going to cover in regards to project setup, so things like adding people and nominating what kind of access they have to the BIM 360 site. And you can see there on the left, I've got myself and Max Bodner, who is one of the main techs over at RedStack as well. So we'll go through a little bit of that. And setting up the project with the profile, any other services as well that are available to that project. So depending on your subscription with Autodesk, you might only have access to docs or BIM 360 Glue or Field or Collaboration, get access to the insights and all of that kind of stuff, which is something that we'll go through. And adding companies as well in there. So all of that is very important in the project setup. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to get it done from the get-go. You can obviously adjust all of these a little bit later, but we're going to talk about just sort of taking a step back before the project kicks off and getting as much set up as you can as well. Then we're going to jump into docs. So this is where on the webinar you'll see there I've got some sample folders there under the project file. So we're going to have a look at creating subfolders in there. and looking at the access rights for all of those. And you can see up on the right-hand side there image that we can see that Max and myself are both users, but we're both project administrators, so we have full control there, but we will go through the different permission levels in regards to companies or users as well. So then that way you might make people read only on a particular project, a particular folder, or again, you can have read write, and plus having the full folder control there if you need to for people who need the full folder control but aren't necessarily project administrators on that as well. And then lastly, this is where we'll spend I think most of our time as well, is the design collaboration portion of BIM 360. So this is where we can go through and have our sets that are issued from Revit and then published out to BIM 360, and then other users can decide whether they want to consume those. I know the wording is a little bit sort of, I don't know, in my terms, sort of weird where you consume things, but when you sort of take a step back, it does make a little bit of sense that you are consuming any of the sets or the models or the files that are issued from other people or other disciplines or other companies, and then that way you can use them within your project there as well. So I'm just going to get out of this and start off on the project side of things. So you can see here that I have my project here within BIM 360. So if you were to click under so this is the hub here. So this is the company hub. So obviously this is part of RedStack, and this is the project name. And you can see if I click down in here, I can see all of the other different projects that I have. So if you get invited to multiple projects, that's where you change the project. The project home has the address, the weather, any other design issues, and I can come in here and see that anything that's been assigned to me, but I've also got here the overall project issues, and I've also got any design packages, and you can see that I shared out a design package today, so I can just click on that and have a look at it. There's a little bit of customization in here, so you can move these around. There's a card library is there as well, so you can see that there might be a few other cards which I'm not going to bother adding, but if you need to, you can see that there's a few other extra ones there. If we need to edit the project setup, so under the project admin, so depending on your user rights in here, so I can come in here, I can add other administrators. I usually like to tend to say that, you might just keep 2 or 3 administrators on there in case something happens to 1 or 2 of them. Then you can come in here and add and remove the project members. If we look at the project company, so you can see here that RedStack is the only company in here as well. So when we do add more companies, this will obviously populate as the project gets bigger or as you invite people in here. Under the services, so as I said before, I can come in here and activate any of these extra sort of modules in here, but you can see for this project I've just got doc management and design collaboration, so I can see the admins there. If I was to activate one of these, then I'd nominate a user's name and email address, and then they would get an email asking them to I guess activate their part of the project. But again, so for this side I don't need to. If I scroll down the left, we're looking at the issues. So this project doesn't have any issues, but it will take us and give us a list of any that are in there. And you can see that there are some people in there, and we've also got sort of their different roles. So if they're the contractor, then they've got full control in there, and whereas an architect only has create. So again, this will be something that you probably spend a fair bit of time in, depending on, again, the project and your role in the project and all of that kind of stuff as well. So we've got different types here of issues. So there's safety, quality, punch lists, any root causes, and any other custom attributes. So here, if I need to create my own custom attribute for this project, then I can do it in here. Anything to do with locations. So that was I can add locations within the project. So maybe it's a room number, maybe it's a floor, maybe it's something to identify in the project that is something that we need to when we input an issue, that we can assign a location to it. If I look at the doc management side of things, you can see that there's an activity pane. So you can see that today we added some subfolders. I uploaded a Revit file. I created some more subfolders. So these were done through the doc, through the collaboration side of things. So it added a consumed folder because I had a look at some sets that were issued and I consumed them. And I can also export that list out as well. So I can export to a CSV through a date range. It just keeps people honest on the project. So you can see that I viewed a file, I added files, I copied documents. So again, if someone says that they didn't do something on the project, you can come back into here and have a look at that logging. There's approval workflow. So this is something we'll have a look at a little bit later. So I can create an approval workflow. So there are some templates here. So if I was to create, let's create a two-step one. So when I go next, I can come in here and give it a name, and I can see who gives it an initial review and a final review. And we're allowing 3 calendar days for that review to happen. They can approve or reject items in there as well. So again, I will show that a little bit more later when once we get into it. Now this one, because I've already done it in 2020, there's nothing really to upgrade. But if you were maybe on an 18 or on 19, then you'd look at this option to upgrade to the latest Revit if you really needed to. So I know this came about just recently. I guess there's a lot of people who are using this with Revit on an older version. There were workarounds for doing it from an old version to a new version, but now Autodesk have created this button here to let you upgrade from the website itself. And then lastly, we've got here the design collaboration side. So I've got teams. Now, a team could be, you can see I've got a team here of sample 1. So I could always, I could give Max, who is one of the other administrators on this. So I can create a team for him, and maybe anyone that he works with. I could create a team, basically, let's call it MEP. So again, depending on who's in the project and their role, what they are doing, what they're not doing, and I might say, I might go architects. Okay, and you can see over here the members in there as well. There's only 2 members in that project, but we can go through and I can add people in here, and you can see that we can also adjust other people, their permissions. So it might be read only, view edit share, and view edit share control. So basically going from they can only view the files right up to having full control there. And you can see that these were inherited because Max and myself are the only 2. But as you go through the project, if you're the administrator, you'd go through and add or remove people and their subsequent permissions for that folder there. So you might have that the architects can view Max's folder and the MEP folder, but they can't edit anything in there as well. But that'll be something that you'll determine on the project. And you can see here, if I click on that little information icon next to the permission levels, you can see the view only, view plus edit, so publish from Revit Cloud Work Sharing or doc management into the work in progress folder, and consume packages, view edit share, control, and then any other custom permissions in there as well. So this, excuse me, this will appear in the folders once we jump into it there as well. And I think that is really about it. Oh, the last one there, the profile. So we can go through and add a project image, the name, any project dates, job numbers, address, and the time zone, all of that kind of stuff there as well. If you really needed to, because then all of that will be represented in the project home under the dashboard there. Okay, so once we want to get some information in there. So if we switch to the doc management side of things, So you'll see down the left-hand side, you can see all of those new folders that have been added. Now, I'm just going to switch over to Revit quickly, and I'm going to open up the sample project that I've already got here under this sample one. So this project is being opened on my Revit desktop. So what it does, it copies it locally, puts it into a subdirectory of your user folder. So essentially you're still working off your C drive, but you can see that it does download and it places it on that C drive, and then I can work in Revit as per normal. So if I switch to my 3D view, so you can see here there's this model here, and again, there's nothing really different, anything on here that means that you're working off BIM 360. It's still just a Revit file. It's still located on your C drive. I've got all of my different views, but the important thing you need to remember is when we go to collaborate. Now, because I've already obviously done this, there'll be a button up here for a new collaboration model that you want to send out to BIM 360. So up here it'll say collaborate. You click on that, it'll ask you whether you want to do it internally or via BIM 360. You obviously select BIM 360, and then it publishes it, and it does the first version. So every time you do a publish, it upgrades it. So we'll go from V1 to V2 to V3. Now that publish, again, it'll be something dependent on your project, whether you do a publish every day, whether you do a publish every week, whether you do a publish every month, or according to another time frame, depending on whatever your role is on the project. Now, determining what you publish, you click on Publish Settings, and you can see here, so with this project, the two out of the box ones were ADSK 360 and Set 1, and I added another set called Sample Set 2. So ADSK 360 only has a few elevations, a 3D view, and one sheet, whereas Set 1 has the A102 drawing and A104, and then Sample Set 2 has all of the elevations. So these are the sets that I want to publish to BIM 360. It might end up that through, again, contractually, or whoever is on the project, whatever they need to see, you might only ever issue floor plans and elevations. You might never issue a 3D model. It just really, really depends on, like I said, who's on the project and what you want them to see and what you want them to have access to. It might be that you only ever issue some sheets for the first 3 months because the project is still sort of a work in progress. You might only ever issue the model because internally you're working between, let's say Melbourne and Singapore and London, and you only ever do the model for the first 3 months, and then maybe after the third month you start deciding to create sheets and views and publish them out so other stakeholders on the project can see it. So again, this is all quite dependent on what you need to do for the project contractually, or what your role is, or what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. So that's where you issue that here for the publish settings. When you manage the cloud models, this is when the V3 happens. So you can see I've done in fact I've done 3 publishes, but since the first publish, there's been 2 since that. So now I'm up to V3, and then I click on the project folder, or the project that I've made on the RedStack hub. And then under there, you can see that green tick box is there. So it means that nothing has changed. So then that way, I don't need to republish anything. If there was a change to the model, so I've added walls, added windows or doors, this will change to a different icon, and you click on it and it says that it will publish the latest, and you'll get basically like a little progress screen here saying that it's waiting for it to publish. Okay, and also as well, you've got a sync with Central. So for anyone on the call who used to use maybe the old Revit server, we can synchronize basically any of the changes in the model, but it doesn't do a publish. So it just means that I can push any changes that I've done in here. So you can see that it's publishing it back up to that model. I can compact it and I can throw in a comment in there as well. So maybe I can say that for that sync with Central, I added more windows or added more doors or did something to it as well. So it's again just some notes there for you to publish. Okay, now once we get it into BIM 360, and you can see here I can click on the file. If I look at some of the permissions, I can add other subfolders in there, which again you'll see in Revit that you can. I can upload any other files or linked files. I can share this folder. I can add any other custom attributes in there as well. So if I needed to throw some extra attributes in there. But again, same thing with the permissions, whether that's internally or externally, I can add or remove people from here as well. I can subscribe to it. So the subscription means that whenever there's a change, you'll get an email notification. So depending on how much email you want to receive in your inbox, you can subscribe, and you can see by default it's subscribing to all folders and subfolders as well. So there is a link there to learn more about the subscription, and you can see there you can have a read through the help file there if you really want to know a little bit more about the subscription. I'm just going to cancel it because I'm already subscribed, and I can create a transmittal, which I'm going to go through a little bit later. But under here I can also just click on the model. Okay, so the kitchen is there. If I go to working drawings, I can see the whole 3D model there. So I can create markups. I can walk around it. If I wanted to create, you know, just a freehand markup on there, I can make the markup private, so it's only visible to me. Or I can make the markup published. So it might be that you're working remotely, you don't need anyone else to see this markup. That way you'd only save it to yourself. So I'm just going to cancel that and just come back up here to the markups. So if I do the same thing just to show just a freehand markup, let's have a look down here at something. And I can just type in there, remove trees. Okay, and then I'm just going to keep it as a private one, and I go save markup, and you can see over here that it is saving it to that. And if I exit the markup view and then I rotate it back around, zoom in, have a look, I can click back on that markup and it takes me back to it. So again, it might be a little bit of a reminder for yourself that you need to do something back at the office. You know, we can edit the markup. I can add an attachment. I can change it to a published one. So then that way other people on the project, so if I had Max here with me, he doesn't see it, but if I published it, then Max would see it as well. And a markup isn't something that's assigned to someone. It's just basically, you know, just a markup, just a comment for yourself as well. And I can edit it and then eventually delete it. When you want to assign something to somebody, this is where you create what's called an issue. So let's create an issue for Max, and it's something to do with this chimney stack here. So let's make it a coordination issue. It is an open. Let's call it the chimney stack, and I'm going to assign it to Max, and he needs to look at it by this Friday. Now you can see the location. I didn't have any locations in there, but if I had a location list, I would. I own it. Let's say that it's a constructability issue, and I say, Max, can you please review this, as I think it might be an issue during construction. It can be whatever. And if I go create, that creates it, sticks it in the database there, and Max is going to get an email from me with this issue, and he can click on that link and it'll take him straight to that issue there as well. Okay, I can create a filter on this. So if I come back and check these on a daily basis, I can say, you know, what kind they are, or I can just say anything that's assigned to Max or myself, and then go apply. Then obviously it's just going to filter out that one that we just created for Max there as well. Okay, so markups are really just markups, whether they're private or public. Issues are the ones that you want if you want to assign that issue to somebody. So maybe you're the BIM manager on a project, or the engineer, some other role where you would assign these issues. You'd probably be spending most of your day in here and assigning these issues to them. The sheets and views is just that. So just clicking in here and looking at the sheets and views themselves. So I can come in here and just scroll through, and the mini map here tells me where I am in the whole scheme of things on the projects. And then I can also come through and show a 3D view side by side, and I can click on items and it takes me to that 3D view inside the model there as well. So if it's a big project where I don't know where a lot of things are, I can come through and just click on items in the 2D and see them inside the 3D there as well. So again, just one of those little things that might help with your sort of day-to-day workflows as you review this project here in Whelm. If I need to measure things, so I do have some measuring tools. So you can see there that it's 1510 between those benches there, and you know, I've got some measurement settings. So whether it's in millimeters, whether you're working on an American project, you got metric or imperial there as well. I can delete it. I can do an angle. I can do an area. But now that I'm done, I can just go back out and jump into any of my other views. I also do have a compare feature. Now, this drawing hasn't been updated, so there's probably not going to be really that much to compare, but I can go through and check what the difference was between V3 and V2, or I can go back to V1. So if version 3 had more rooms put in it, more labels or text or whatever, this can also do a compare against the 3D. So as you saw before, where I had all of those lists that activity listed out for all of the people on the project, I can do a comparison of a V3 model against V1 model, and I can see what has changed in that as well. So again, you can see maybe if the architect hasn't done anything for a week, you can just double check to make sure that they are doing the work that they need to. Also as well, you can see here the history. So at 649, 650, and 719, I did my different versions in here as well. So again, just another way to see what's been happening, and just having a look at any levels. Now this one doesn't have any levels, and if I just go back out, oops, actually I need to, let's just jump into the 3D side and look at levels. So I've got a roofline level, level 2, ceiling level, level 1, living room, and foundation levels. Okay, so if you've got any levels in your Revit model, this is where you could go through and pick on them as well. I've got section analysis, so I can come through and adjust what I can see and what I can't see. So you can see that I can cut a section through, oops, go roofline. And then if I cut a section, so I can rotate that view, and if I want to look, you know, inside a model for whatever reason, I can just come through and adjust all of those as well. So even for heavy models where you know, you need to look inside for something, we can go through and adjust all of those. Let's just take that out there as well. Okay, there is some sort of, let me just move this out of the way. So I can also look at orthographic or perspective view. Let me just jump out of this. So looking from the kitchen, if I want to look at orthographic, okay, so that's square on. If I want to look at it in perspective mode, so again, you know, I know there are people who like to view in perspective mode, so you've got those options there. And again, very similar to Navisworks, the way it displays it as well. So if I go back to perspective and then I set this current view as home, I can focus and set it at home, or I can reset. And again, just resetting some of the orientations there as well. So if you're very used to working inside Navisworks, you can come back and use that knowledge to walk around and have a look inside of BIM 360 here. And I can also navigate in first person. So kind of like I'm standing in the room and I can walk through, oops, and I'm stuck inside the wall there, but let's take that out. So again, there's just a few tools in there that you can walk around and have a look. Okay, so what I really want to get stuck into is on the design collaboration side. So if you click on the icon up here and we switch to design collaboration, this is where you can issue your sets, and then, as I spoke earlier, where you consume them. Okay, so you can see there's a sort of a timeline up here, and I can see from the architect side that there was a sample that was issued today. So I can look at that content. So I can look inside it and see what's in there. So all it is these were just views that I've issued with that sample set. Okay, now if there were any changes, I could click on show changes up here, but there obviously aren't because this was the first issue, but now I can consume them. So you can see here, when you click on that consume, it says you're about to consume this package, which will bring it into your team space and update any links they may have reference to models in this space. So I can just click on consume. Okay, now if I go back to my doc management, and go to my architect, you can see that there's a consumed folder in there as well. And we've got those sets that are in there as well. So you can see I've got that Revit model in there with those 4 views that I can now come into Revit and then link into them as well. So this is where you can see the architect has consumed the sample 1 set. Now, just as a reminder, if we go back into the publish settings here, so that's that sample set there as well. So if you wanted to make a new sample set, you can just come in here and say set 2, and let's do all of them and do save and close. Actually, I want to turn, I forgot to tick that on. So you click on save and close, and then when we click on manage cloud models, I can come back here and reissue some more models or some more sheets or views. Okay. Oh, and I need to do a Synchro Central as well. It's just a habit to get into, is to do an SWC, a Synchro Central, and then to do a publish, or yeah, from the Manage Cloud Models button there. You can see here the speed tells you how fast it's uploading, what's left. And let's just do a publish again, just to double check. And you can see there, I published all the latest. So it says, yeah, I'm about to publish that. And you can see here, I can close the window. This status will change to publish when it's complete. So you give it a few seconds, maybe a minute at most, depending on your internet speed. There is some recommended minimums for this. I think it's around 20 meg each way-ish. Don't quote me on that. You probably have to just double check online. I'm sure there's a system requirements for it, but you know, if you're on at least an NBN connection or fiber, you should be right for that. Okay, and what's going to happen is you're going to see this is going to change. So once that publish is done, this will change. It'll have like a sort of a spinning wheel look to it, and we'll get a V4 in there as well. And then what's going to happen is under the design collaboration, all of the new work sets will appear here. So I'm under the architect, but I can go through and change and make sure that those work sets do appear in here as well. And you can see, I don't think I mentioned it before, when the sets have been consumed, this changes to a filled color. So normally you'd see this as a sort of a white color, but when it is consumed, you can see that it is filled. But like I said earlier, you'd have to really sort of before you kick off anything on the project, you know, you start adding people, you probably have to sit through and make sure that you get teams and your subfolders in correct working order, and then that way you can you know, start issuing invitations to that and make sure that you only sort of do 1 or 2 people within the administration, maybe 3 tops, and just to make sure that you have some sort of redundancy there. But I can also issue this out for review. So you can see there that I made this review before, and I've got a 1-step review. So this is going to, again, I've added Max in here. So Max is going to get a workflow request in there. You can see it's opened up to Max. If I want to notify anyone else, please review this, Max, within the next 3 days. So you can see he's got 3 days there anyway. And I can also create a transmittal of this as well. So I can, again, send this out to Max and create. Okay, you can see that it's preparing the transmittal. The transmittal number 1 has been sent. If I come through and look over here, then I can see what it is, and I can download that zip file and see what was inside that. Okay. So that leaves us with a little bit of time for a Q&A session. So if there's any questions you want, like I say at the end of my webinars, if you want more information, just get in touch with the boys and girls at RedStack. Let them know that you've seen this. Let them know if you want me to talk to you directly. I am based in Melbourne. I do travel also as well. I can do this online or I can do it in person, obviously, depending on where you are. But feel free to ask away and see what we can come up with.
Yep, thanks for that, Tom. So we'll just wait for a couple more minutes if anyone wants to ask any questions. Yes, Chris, we will upload the recording on YouTube by tomorrow. So we got a question here from Graham. So what is contained in the published model? Are only the work sets visible published?
Only the ones that you tick on. So if you've got work sets there that weren't ticked on, so if I just jump back into here. So you can see there that I've included the 4 work sets. If I didn't want set 1 or 2, I can just turn them off.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tom. And Graham also added end design options.
No, I don't think designer options are part of that sync. It's really just under the published settings. Let me see. It's only 3D views, views, and sheets.
He meant the work sets, not the published sets.
Oh, the work sets. Yes, the work sets are all part of it.
Yep, and we got a question here from Chris. Are you aware of a way to automate the publishing of Revit models?
I think that has come up on and off during my time at Autodesk and outside of Autodesk, unless there's something in the API. So, Chris, I'm assuming either, do you mean this button or the the pushing of the cloud models. As far as I know, no, I don't know enough on the API to do this. I've got a feeling this is all still manual, but it's probably something, if you get in touch with the guys at Redstack, I can chase it up offline and just double check, make sure that there's something in the API, or if Autodesk have, you know, as part of their roadmap, I guess, for BIM 360 and Revit.
Yep, and he just added, just wondering if it can be scheduled.
At the moment, no, but having said that, again, if there's something in the API that you could probably do it, a good thing to maybe look at, and I don't know off the top of my head, is maybe something in Dynamo.
Yep, and we've got a question here from Lady. Is BIM 360 only compatible with Revit? Can it support any other Autodesk packages?
Okay, so BIM 360 works with Revit as a design tool. With Civil 3D, you publish a shared surface. So under linking topo, so this will publish. So in Civil 3D, when you publish a surface to BIM 360, Revit can consume that topo surface from the cloud. Civil 3D, as far as I know, at the moment does not support BIM 360 as in working off the cloud. Advanced Steel does not work with BIM 360 directly, like within the package. You can upload an Advanced Steel file manually to BIM 360, but you have to follow certain rules in regards to downloading and locking the file and make sure no one can use it if you're going to update the Advanced Steel file. Plant 3D works with BIM 360 design, but you have to enable a BIM 360 team account for that to work. And there is also some public beta on that, which I think being a beta, that's all I'll say. But if you have a look at the Autodesk beta website, it is public knowledge, but there is some stuff coming up with Plant and BIM 360 there. InfraWorks works with BIM 360, so you can go through and publish an InfraWorks model. And if you give me 2 seconds, I'm just going to double check one of my other projects just to show that. So if we go to doc management, it doesn't work directly with AutoCAD, but you can upload an AutoCAD file. There's a whole bunch of file types that are viewable or non-viewable. So like this InfraWorks model here, that's Albert Park. This works off InfraWorks. So with InfraWorks, you can create a model either in the cloud or on BIM 360. So yeah, depending on the package, the Autodesk files will work with it, whether they work in the program or the software application, or whether you do it manually, will be dependent on that individual package. So you can see here, there's my InfraWorks model. I've got Albert Park here. So if I zoom in, you know, again, I can see all of the lake and the road. If you're online, and if you look up BIM 360 file type associations, I think. So yeah, supported files. You can see here that there's a whole bunch of viewable files. So 3DM, 3ds Max, DWG, DWIF, IAM, assemblies, IFC files. And then there are non-viewable, but where are we? There's some non-viewable, and there'll be none that are not supported for upload as well. So again, just have a quick Google for this supported files for BIM 360, and you'll see what can work with and without. And there was just a recent update where it was looking at Microsoft Office files as well.
Yep, thanks, Tom. And we have a question here from Praful. Will this work with other document sharing programs, sites like AccuX or Build Tools, or will it not be required?
That's a really, really good question. There is, where was it? There's a portion in here where you can append or attach kind of third-party tools. BIM 360 docs, third-party add-ins. I've got a feeling off the top of my head there was some A-Connects and there was a few others in there, but have a look. Sorry, who asked that question?
That was Praful.
Praful. So Praful, again, probably just touch base with the guys at RedStack and get them to talk to me, or again, we can have a look at it online. I know there is some add-ons. If we look up A-Connects, BIM 360, so there is some comparisons, but I'm pretty sure there is like a little bit of a plugin that you can do, but it might be ultimately a third party. I don't think it was an Autodesk. Don't quote me on this. I've got something in the back of my mind about BIM 360 and Dropbox as well, but again, it's probably something I can take offline with you.
Yep, and we have a question here from David. Do you develop federated model in BIM 360?
You can do. So if you want, there is one part that I didn't talk about in here. There was, it's not here, not part of the access I have to, is model coordination. So that will essentially build up a model and it will clash as you upload files into it. Again, I'd probably say just touch base and I will try and organize my own access to model coordination and either demonstrate it in person or online to you. Ultimately, I still also recommend that people on their own desktop use Navisworks to do their own little clash detection and reviews and collaborate offline. And then once they're happy, is upload those models and do sort of an online collaboration as well as federating it.
Yep, and Brad just mentioned that project admins can schedule a regular automated publish of a team's work using the schedule publish option in the project admin module. It's in Design Collab.
Okay.
Yep.
I've got a feeling, I think just because I'm a user, I might not have access. I'll have to double check that. Yeah. I think that's under the Design Collab. I think the question that was possibly from Chris before was doing it from here. From the publish here. But I'm happy to again, take it offline with people who are interested in it.
Yep. So we'll just wait for another minute. Any more questions?
I'll just put up the last slide here if you want.
Yep, so I think we just wrap it up from there. So thanks again, guys, for joining us in today's webinar. And if you have any more questions, you can contact us by email shown on the screen at solutions@redstack.com.au. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.